Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Superman 72 in the second story, The Private Life of Perry White. Yes, this sounds like it's going to be a centric story to Perry White, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet, and a character who has mostly just kind of been there to introduce something early on for Clark to go report on, or Clark and Lois to go report on. He doesn't really do much in the story, and as I've said, he's not exactly had the most consistent look in comics. He has been a little more consistent over the last few years, especially in the 1950s. This isn't a Perry White-centric story when it probably should have been, or at least the other character, Will Wheaton, who is introduced in the story and possibly never seen again. So Perry is being incredibly aggressive and just unpleasant to be around, killing a story Clark wants to do and telling Will Wheaton, a new reporter for the Daily Planet, that he needs to get a scoop, a big scoop, in the next 24 hours or he's going to be fired. Will Wheaton, by the way, has red hair and is wearing green with a bow tie, which made me think he was Jimmy. He is not Jimmy Olsen, which is why I think he might disappear, because he's not Jimmy Olsen. But we still haven't had Jimmy since at least the start of the 50s, and I think even 2 years before that. So Jimmy's just been gone. He's in this quantum lock where until he comes back, he may never show up again. We all know he's going to show up again, but it does feel like at this time that he may never show up again, either because the writers didn't care or no one, or they didn't think anyone cared about that character. Superman then follows Perry to see what's the matter. He's basically being threatened by a bunch of vandals. There's a vandalism racket going on, mostly broken glass in businesses. This is all a racketeering plan. If they don't pay the insurance money, the protection money, they break the windows, so forcing you to have to pay some money, and they'll keep doing it until you have to pay the money. It's actually not a very hard case to solve, but they've threatened Perry if he keeps reporting on it, and Perry's upset about this. This leads to a flashback about how Perry and Clark first met, which I'm suspicious happened in Superboy. It has at least the first 2 times, not counting the original time, being the telling of the first part of the first Superman story, which is then told in Superman #1, a continuation or the prequel to the opening of Action Comics #1. Watch those videos to understand what I'm saying, but the first story in Superman #1 was the first part, told how things led up to where we meet Superman in Action Comics #1, which had come out like 2 years before Superman #1. And that was how he got his job. But then over 100 issues later, we get a retelling that involves Clark being told to come get a job when Perry happened to be in Smallville, and then Perry doesn't remember him, and it's a whole story. Here it's a flashback that's more of a short version of that. It doesn't feel like it's all that hard on Clark, and it's just kind of thrown out there, just not being kind of the same. It's not all that hard on Clark to get the job. And this won't be the last time coming up in the next few episodes. They are really into like quick flashbacks to origin parts of Superman, and either reintroducing things or eliminating things. And actually, really funnily, they reintroduced something they had eliminated in Superman's origins coming up. And then I swear to God, like 2 issues later in Action, I think one happens in Superman and one happens in Action, but like 2 issues later in Action, they retell his origins, completely ignoring the thing they reintroduced. But more on that later. So Superman overhears the thing he's going to go investigate. And at the same time, Whitman is solving this case. And actually, Whitman does solve the case, and this leads to Superman having to save him. It's actually not a very complicated mystery. And after this point, it is more of a Superman story, when it possibly should have been more about Will Whitman solving the case, or Perry, for that matter. But it's an insurance company. It's an insurance company threatening people if they don't pay for that insurance. So it's almost a legitimate, quotation marks there, protection racket. But this leads to a confrontation outside a giant model of the solar system. I respect that we're finally doing some major set pieces here. I think they're getting some inspirations over at the Batman comics for these things. And Superman just bounces off these giant planets, taking out the crooks, and Whitman gets the big scoop, revealing, and the reason Perry is being so hard on Whitman, besides the fact that he's really stressed out, is Whitman is in fact Perry's son, and he had to actually prove himself to get a job. We're probably going to eliminate the Perry son angle because Jimmy sort of is metaphorically the son Perry never had. And it's actually kind of funny that he does look like Jimmy. And as you notice, there wasn't really much to talk about after the second half. Superman just goes, investigates it, solves it like that, because it's not a very hard mystery to solve. And then we get a really cool set piece where Superman defeats these guys. And resolution, I guess, that doesn't really have much to do with Superman or Clark, which wouldn't be so much of a problem if the other two characters this resolution revolves around had been who the story had been revolving around most of the time. Okay, that is it from Superman 72, The Private Life of Perry White. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video is up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover Batman story, either Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the Man of Tomorrow, and what happens to Will Whitman? He's going to be Jimmy. It has to be. Okay, have a great day.